Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to my channel, I Hate Rock Music. And this is number 19, I think, in my series of 20 bands, great Seattle bands that a lot of people probably have never heard. And this one's a humdinger, Engine Kid. And I got to see them live quite a few times, and they were insanely loud, which of course I loved. And one of the things about them is they were really influenced by Slint. And one reason why I think that's interesting is because for the rest of the world, they eventually caught up to how great Slint was, and now Slint has become legendary. But for a Seattle band like this back in 1991 to hear Slint and already realize how incredible it was and then want to emulate them. And I have to admit, when I first saw Engine Kid, I saw the Slint comparisons right away, and there's part of me that was a little put back by the fact that they had so many Slint tendencies. But they emulated Slint, but it was kind of great to have another band kind of mining that same material, which is such a great sound that Slint had. And to have a band like that in Seattle doing that kind of music that you could go see anytime you want was turned out to be pretty wonderful. And the fact that they were so much louder than everybody else certainly made them stand out in a town full of incredibly loud bands. And I love that. I probably wouldn't be able to handle it so much now, but back in the 90s, having all these really powerful, loud bands was truly great. The other thing about Engine Kid as well is that as they went along, they kind of defined their own sound a lot more, and they added more kind of avant elements to their sound, and jazz elements and post-punk elements, and really carved out their own sound. And you'll be able to tell listening to stuff that I post below. And they were Art Behrman on bass, Chris Vanderbrook on drums, and Greg Anderson on guitar and vocals. And then Jade DeWitt actually joined the band right after their first single and was with them for the rest of their existence. But they're around from 1991 to 1997. Put out 2 albums and 3 singles and EPs in their early existence. 1993, an album called Bear Catching Fish, which is the most like Slint, I suppose. But by 1994, they put out their second album, Angel Wings, and you can hear a lot more elements being brought in, and they kind of transcended being a kind of a Slint rip-off band. And since then, I should point out the EPs too. In 1992, they released a single EP called Novocaine, and then in 1993 on Seattle's big underground label CZ Records, they put out Astronaut, and then in 1993 they put out Heater Sweats Nails. And so unlike a lot of Seattle bands, they managed to get out 2 albums and a lot of great EPs and singles. And they ended up doing some great covers too. There's a couple compilations. One of them is a Tom Petty compilation, and Engine Kid does a breakdown. And then they also do a great cover of Neil Young's The Needle and the Damage Done in a really heavy way. And since then, a lot of other materials appeared. There's a 2 LP set of a bunch of sessions they did with Steve Albini, and Steve Albini producing them was just a natural, and the material's great. He really brought out their best qualities, and certainly a lot of comparisons to Slint as well. But then in 2020, they reunited, and they were just as good as they ever were. They put out a EP in 2021 called Special Olympics, and then a big, huge compilation of a lot of their material in 2021 as well, called Everything Left Inside on Southern Lord Records. And I guess that's all I have to say about them, other than the fact that if you like Slint or Bastro or those kind of bands, you're going to love Engine Kid. They really did start out as a Slint-like band, and then quickly transcended, and they were incredible live. So powerful, and all really great musicians as usual. And so a lot of people in Seattle certainly remember Engine Kid, legendary band, legendary volume, and lot more distinctive than a lot of the so-called grunge bands. The fact that they emulated Slint um, definitely set them apart from bands, a lot of the grunge bands that emulated Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and the Stooges and Blue Cheer. There was a lot of that around. So kind of like some of these other bands I talked about, like Medicine Hat. Engine Kid really kind of had a different sort of thing going. It really made them stand out a lot. And I really have to say again, they were so fucking loud. It felt dangerous. And but their sound was really clear, even though they were so loud. But they were really fucking loud. And for that reason alone, for that reason alone, I recommend them. But super great band. It's great that they came back years later and were just as good as they ever were, which certainly isn't true of a lot of bands that get back together after being gone for 10 or 20 years. But Engine Kid, their original lifetime was long for a Seattle band too, from 1991 to 1997, and it's great to have all that product. And I got a lot of posts below by them because they were very productive, and as you'll hear, all of it's really, really great. So it's pretty fitting that in one of the last couple of videos I'm going to do in the great Seattle bands no one's ever heard of, or that you probably have never heard, Engine Kid is one of the best. And again, it's kind of amazing they didn't make it on a national scale and aren't a household word because they really were as good as anybody. So dive in. As I said, if you like Slint and you like that kind of sound, or you like that Chicago sound, Engine Kid is going to thrill you like no other. And so get into those links down there and turn it up. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.